Hey guys, so last week we kicked off our series on What's Your Vision? And we're going to spend July talking about how you see things. And maybe that sounds like a lesson for med school more than Sunday school, but you could not be more wrong because we want to talk about not what your eyes see, but what your mind sees. Perspective. And just a reminder of what perspective is. Perspective is the mental view. Perspective is your mental view. It's how you see things based on what you know, your beliefs, and your experiences. So, perspective to me is one of the most crucial pieces of living a life that shows people Christ. I also think it's probably one of the biggest misses that Christians have, or one of the things that Christians think about the least or don't necessarily care about, when it can make or break your life as witnessing as a Christian. And why is that? Well, because if we don't take the time to think about how our actions may be seen and felt by others, then that's a big problem. We need to take that time to think about how could a non-Christian, someone who's not saved, see my actions and take them. And then also, not just our actions, but we need to be able to as Christians, look at other people's actions through the mindset of Christ and see that big picture. Perspective for a Christian means looking at each situation through an eternal view. And this is probably one of the hardest things for a Christian. It doesn't matter how old, how young, how long you've been a Christian. This is probably one of the hardest things. And it takes Christ living and working through us to be able to do it. There's no way as a Christian we can do it on our own. This is just one of those things that we are not wired to be able to do. As sinners, we're not wired to care about how what we say or what we do may look to someone else, especially if what we say or do is meant in a good way. If what I'm saying, I am intending it to be such a good, positive thing, but you take it negatively, it's really hard for me to be like, oh, well, I shouldn't have said it that way, even though I meant it in a good way because you took it wrong. Our nature says, well, you shouldn't have taken it that way. You should have looked at it my way. That's how we are set to be. We're not set to think about the others. We're set to think, well, I meant it in a great way. Why didn't you take it that way? So that's why we have to have Christ. We have to have Christ working through us. This is not something that we can do on our own. We have to make him the center of our life and the center of every one of our decisions. Doesn't that sound familiar? Probably one of my favorite lessons that we've done the entire time that I have been y'all's leader is center of the universe, because every single thing you do or think or say or any decision you make is going to tie back to that lesson. Is Christ center? Because if Christ is center, your decisions, your thoughts, your actions are going to be so much different than if Sarah's center, than if Gabby's center, than if you're center. Because if I'm center of my own life, I don't care how my actions affect you. If I try to do something good for you, or I say something nice to you, if I say, my intention is to tell you, oh my gosh, I love that hair color, did you get it cut? And you get offended by it because you didn't get it cut, or, maybe your hair wasn't colored, maybe your brother or sister spilled peroxide on it and it's been a hard day and you just burst into tears. If I'm center of the universe, I'm going to get mad at you. I'm like, why are you so upset? All I said is I like your hair. I'm going to worry about me. Another example would be if I'm waiting in line somewhere and you're not going as fast as I think, I don't really care if you're short-staffed or if you had someone call in or if the computers just went down and you're trying to get everything up. or you just spent 3 hours with someone who lost their family member and you're the only person who has shown them love and compassion, or you had someone try to kill themselves in your office and you had to work through it. I don't care about that. All I care about is I'm having to wait. I have to wait. I, center of my universe, should never have to wait. That's what I'm talking about with perspective. There's 1,000,001 things that you could go to with perspective. How your actions affect others, how you should respond to people's actions. And we're going to go over a lot of that. But this week, I really just want you to understand what eternal perspective means, okay? And I'm kind of jumping all over the place because I'm so passionate about this subject. So what I said is, as Christians, we need to look through the eternal perspective, right? So what does eternal perspective mean? It means that we look at a situation and see the big picture of what truly matters in that situation, right? So what truly matters? Think about that. Y'all send me a text and tell me what truly matters. What truly matters in a situation? Does it matter if I'm right and you're wrong? Truly, does it truly matter in most situations for you to know that I'm right and that you're wrong, or for you to be right and I'm wrong? Most situations, no. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. And that's a hard one because y'all know I like to win. Y'all know I like to win, and to bow down and to know I'm right, but care more about someone else's feelings and them as a Christian and them as a person. That's hard, y'all. But think about that. What's the big picture? What if me trying to be right in my comments causes that person to not want to come back to Florence Boulevard, to First Baptist Church? What if it makes them not want to be part of the 628? What if it makes them view God in a way that they don't want to be a Christian? They don't want to be saved because of my actions, because I was so worried about being right. Guys, that's what I'm trying to tell y'all. Perspective. Keeping things in line, because the eternal perspective says, Sarah, it doesn't matter if you were right this one time. Who cares? If it drives somebody away from an eternity with Christ, who cares if you're right or wrong? On most situations. Like Alabama versus Auburn. If COVID-19 was made up by a chemist, or is real, or is as bad as this, or this report's right, or this statistic's right, at the end of the day, if it causes somebody to spend an eternity in hell because I'm too worried about fighting over COVID, then sharing Christ's love, is it worth it? What is your perspective? So, more examples, okay? When you're looking at a situation, is it focused on people, not things? You should focus on patience, not frustration. You should focus on understanding, not judgments. Because, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, if you will take the time to understand and know the entire situation fully, majority of the time, your judgments, your thoughts, your conclusions, your perspective is wrong. You've got to take the time to get to know the full situation before you jump in to sharing your opinion, to responding, to reacting. You need to know that you know what is happening. And you know what? And sometimes, once you know what's truly happening, you know what your response is going to be? Nothing. I don't need to respond to that. I'm not part of it. It has nothing to do with me. I'm not going to jump into that. I'm going to wait. I'm just going to let the ones who it's part of it deal with it, because they don't need me to share my 2 cents. Right? All right? Or when you look at the big picture, eternal picture, it's focused on love, not self-centeredness. So let me go over those again. Focus on people, not things. On patience, not frustration. On understanding, not judgments. And on love, not self-centeredness. So, to wrap it up, we look at perspective. We know perspective is how you view situations and things based on your experiences, what you know, your behaviors, your beliefs, right? So we know eternal perspective is to say, whoa, okay, I'm going to base what I view and what I see based on Christ and his eyes. So when I see somebody who is acting up in school, or who is being a jerk to me, or who isn't acting right, I'm going to look at them through Christ's eyes. And instead of saying, oh my gosh, they're so uncool, I'm so too cool for them, what weirdos, I'm going to say, man, that person needs love. Man, that person needs Christ. Christ could see what they need. Christ looked at them in a different way. He looked at them through as a person and through their eternity, not as how they're acting right this second. He knew they needed him. They couldn't act any different, couldn't be any different. Nothing in their life can change until they had him in their heart. So that's how he approached it. So eternal view, if we have an eternal perspective and we look at situations through an eternal perspective with Christ, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to look at a situation and try to decide what is the most important here. Is it me being right? How can I show Christ's love through this situation? Am I judging in this situation? Am I jumping to conclusions? Do I know all the facts? And even though, okay, I have all the facts now, the person still may be wrong. But is me sharing my opinion or my thoughts on this going to help the situation? Is it going to bring that person closer to Christ? Or is it going to drive them further away? And if you answer, it's going to drive them away, then your eternal perspective has to win and say, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to fight. And it's hard, y'all. It is so hard not to want to respond to all these stupid posts about all these things that I agree or don't agree with. And I just want to be like, guys, stop fighting in love. Stop fighting each other and just show love. You Christians who are supposed to be caring out there, quit. I want to do that. I want to put it on every single one. But I've had to refrain myself because me fighting with them doesn't help my case. It just gives them more ammunition to be like, well, this, and this there. And I don't want to fight. I want to take the situation that we're living in and I want to use it to bring people closer to Christ. That's my perspective for everything. And am I perfect? Absolutely not. But that's where I want to start from. That's where I want y'all to get to. I want y'all to be able to look at a situation, especially when school starts back, guys. Things are going to be weird. Tension's going to be high. Teachers are going to be stressed out. They've never had to teach like this before. Principals are going to be stressed out. They've never had to lead through this before. Tension is going to be high at first. Things are going to be weird. It's not going to be like it was last year. And you have got to have the perspective that Christ had, the eternal perspective. This perspective that, oh my gosh, my teacher, she may be stressed and yelling today, but does she really mean it? Does that mean that I should come back and be harder on her tomorrow? Or should I cut her a break? Should I show her Christ's love? Should I help her out somehow? Is that friend whose parent is freaking out over every situation and has 600 hand sanitizers and 15 masks in his thing and has all this protection and she's wrapped him in bubble wrap? Is it because his parents are just crazy, or is it because his parents love him? It's because his parents love him. And if a kid comes to school and what you think overly protected from the virus and has all these measures they have to take to keep themselves safe, and they won't just get close to you and hang out, and they follow the social distancing. What is your perspective? Is it, that person's crazy? Or is it, okay, their parents, they're trying to keep themselves safe. I'm going to respect that. I may not have the same fears over it, but I'm going to respect it. What if you do have the same fears? Is that okay? Absolutely. You shouldn't fear in this situation. We should be able to trust Christ, but we're all going to have some stresses and some fears and some worries. We just have to give them to Christ. So if you're a little nervous about going back to school, or you decide to homeschool, your parents decide to homeschool you, whatever that is, understand things are going to be unique, and people are going to desperately need your perspective to be an eternal one. All right, so I'm going to give y'all some situations. I want you to be honest. Again, I want you to be honest in how you would react to them. And then I want you to think about, is that an eternal perspective, how I'd react and act, or is it a self-centered one, okay? If you want to share it, I'd love to have your honest answers. If not, please just think about it. Okay. You are in line for lunch, and you know you got to get through there quick because you got to be able to eat, and you got to get a best spot by your best buds, and somebody cuts you off and jumps in front of you. And you're pretty sure they did not realize that you were standing there. It wasn't intentional. You think it wasn't intentional. What do you do? Scenario 1. What do you do? All right. Scenario 2. Your little sister or little brother has borrowed your charger again, and it's in their room. How do you act? What do you do? All right. Scenario 3. Your parents just got on to you for something, and you don't agree with it. You don't feel it's right. How do you respond? And I'm going to give y'all a little... Okay, so on that one, I'm going to give you something. I'm not saying that you have to bow down and never let your parents or people know what's going on in your life that's right. How do you do it, though? If your parents... Gosh, we parents are not perfect. We're going to mess up. But when we do, how do you respond? How do you talk to us about it? So that's what I'm asking there. How do you talk to your parents? All right, last one. You don't like that your parents won't let you have social media. What do you do? How do you respond? Okay? All right, girls. I love y'all. See you next week.